group. Awesome. So why are we here today? We're going to talk a little bit about communication. Not how to code it, not a new language to learn, but actually why communication fails with a risk of 93%. And I didn't make this number up. First of all, who am I? Why am I talking to you today? Well, because I wanted to, of course. You guys were awesome. I was actually recommended by someone to come to this group. They did not lie. You guys are awesome. So thank you for those of you who have already had conversations with me and already taught me a couple of things. But my name is Deena Chadwick, and I'm known as the commonsensical BA. Yeah, there's that word, BA. Please don't hold it against me, though, okay, Devs? A long time ago, when I first started my career as a BA, I did what most BAs do. Have you heard of this? Edge cases, overanalysis, nitpicking the silliness, not providing enough details. Do any of those sound familiar? Yes, definitely. I was working with a group, and they used to tell me on a regular basis, Deena, would you let that go and bring common sense in the room? Well, that first group taught me something important. Bring common sense in the room with me. Call out something as an edge case, let it go and deal with it when we need to. Keep the silliness off the table and use that Pareto rule of 80-20%. I've used that in so many ways, and the new guys thought when they were teasing me as the commonsensical BA, it meant I had started with it, so I just kept the name, commonsensical BA. It's a reminder for me not to go psycho as a BA. So, common root causes in postmortems. Don't know if you guys know this. You live it, so you probably shouldn't be shocked. Miscellaneous falls under about 11%. 25%, somebody didn't have the power of, or authorization. Did that surprise you at all? No. But 64%, when I asked over 200 Scrum Masters and teams to tell me what was the root causes behind their postmortems, it was communication. And though that didn't surprise me, how high it was did. So I decided I wanted to improve in my communication. Does this look familiar at all? Yeah, it does. Let me tell you a story from my life. I know, it's all about me today. You guys will get used to that. So I was working with a realtor back in Michigan. I had moved from Louisiana to Michigan, didn't know the area, and he said, hey, I'm going to take you to some amazing houses, and you're going to love these. So he calls me and he says, okay, are you ready for today? I've got a theme today. Tree. Simple word. We all know the word. We're all picturing something in our head right now. Did I mention I was from Louisiana? When he said majestic, beautiful, large trees in the front yard, he thought this. I thought this. Hurricane City. So simple word like tree can bring up a very different visualization. How we communicate. I didn't make this up. Nothing you're going to hear from me today is made up. I've learned it from others. That's what I do. You get to have my study guide today. This is what I'm using to get better. 7% is our verbal communication, the words that we're actually using. 38% is paraverbal. If you haven't heard of that, I'll go over it in a bit. It was the first time I'd heard of it as well. And then nonverbal. We know what that's like, right? So, paraverbal cues. This is the speed at which you're speaking, the level you're talking, the pitch, the tone, the emphasis, or emphasis, if you remember that movie. And nonverbal cues, facial, micro expressions, macro expressions, your hands, your arms, your body, all of these, posture, all of these actually contribute to those nonverbal cues. What's the most frequent form of communication we use today? 7%. If you're using email, messenger without video and audio, if you're sending information on a text, you have a 7% chance of your information being communicated perfectly. How does that feel? Not too good, right? So for those of you, I'm going to go over the communication process, but you probably know this. Just bear with me a little bit. When you break down communication, you take the thoughts in your mind, you have to encode them into the language or how you're going to communicate it. The channel, you need to pick your medium. Am I going to speak it, type it, write it up? Then it gets decoded into the actual writing. or your audio or video. Then the next person receives it. They need to go through the whole process again and then respond, encoding it, putting it through the channel, and then decoding it. With remote applications, this gets scary. It gets really crazy, and I'll show you why. There are ways that communication breaks down when we're taking that information in our mind and transitioning it into words. We can choose the wrong words. We can say too much or too little. We can speak too loudly or softly. We can use the wrong intonation or reflection. When we get into remote, it gets even crazier. We might not be comfortable with our video on camera, which is affecting how we communicate. We may reduce the message because we don't type as well as we speak or in the same speed. And we have problems sometimes encoding that information. Let's talk about all of these. Choosing the wrong words. Anyone here ever choose the wrong word and wish they could just go back and reverse things? Yeah, who hasn't, right? 7 principles to choosing the right word. Avoid misaligning vocabularies. Use specific words, very precise. Make sure they have the right meaning. Choose strong words, words that are going to help your context, help the person understand. Avoid overused words. Now, I'm not going to use the one that a lot of people think of, but there is a word out there people say you could use in every way, shape, or form. A noun, a verb, an adjective, and it's overused. You definitely don't want to use it professionally. But overused words can be misrepresented because they can change back and forth between nouns and verbs. Obsolete words, really confusing if you use a word from back in the day, like, hey, that cat there, well, that's not a human being since the 30s? That's now an animal, so that's not nice. And avoid words with multiple meanings. They can be very confusing. And then, of course, use understandable words. What do I mean by that? Don't overcomplicate the language because you know a big word doesn't mean someone else does. So, when you're saying too much or too little, did you know that Textspeak, everybody knows about Textspeak, right? This is not a modern problem. This has been a problem for quite some time. In the 1943, this is an example of an actual Western Union. They've abbreviated, shortened a sentence without grammar, removed words, and it speaks well. Am coming home, am in Chicago now. Now, the person who got this message knows exactly what the meaning of this message is. Why did they do this? Is it because they're being a jerk? No, it was because it costs a lot. Every time you were sending a telegraph through the wire, it would cost you for every character, so they shortened them down. 1943, but let's take it back to 1962. Here's an example from Thomas Hardy. He's an actual author and a poet. He likes words. He's not against words. He gets grammar. He's an actual author. But he wrote this to his sister. I wish you would, clearly would, right? Tell me how you are when you write. Again, abbreviation, shortened words, but the context and the meaning is completely there. The reason I'm sharing this with you is I want you to understand it's not a problem that we reduce the words or the letters. This has been something we've been doing through the ages. It's how you do it that counts. So remember to be brief, but being brief doesn't always mean removing things. Sometimes it means you need to add. Now I know that seems crazy, but brief is actually an acronym. Provide background. Provide why you're telling them the information. Give the actual information itself. Let them know you're done. There's not more to come. And leave opportunity for follow-up or response. So being brief isn't always about being short, but it is about making the conversation faster, easier. Set the context is the most important thing. If you do want to remove letters and words, get rid of the right ones. Don't remove context words. Get rid of those structure words that really aren't unnecessary that you could read without. Speaking too loudly or too softly, really? We know this, right? For some reason, whispering will definitely get people's attention better than screaming at them. It's the oddest thing. Look at some of the moms out there. When she gets quiet, that's when you have to worry. But communication is definitely something where the intonation and the inflection can get you in a lot of trouble. Let's think about this one. When we're speaking, we have the opportunity to encode things with an intonation that says the same exact phrase is a question because it goes up at the end of it, or it's a statement because it's said straight across, or it's a command just by adding that little extra at the end. It can go either way. Same exact word, same exact sentence could be a question, a statement, or a command. Some people have the discomfort when using the channel. Technophobia is a real thing. I know we don't have it, or we wouldn't be in the industries we're in. But some of the people we're speaking to do have technophobia. Trouble with troubleshooting. Not all of us know how to get help right away. Not all of us know how to quickly troubleshoot things or access our systems. Some people are very confused when they're seeing themselves on screen because they see a mirror. Instead of seeing what they see in the mirror, they see a mirror image of themselves. Matter of fact, Teams and I think Zoom automatically go to mirror these days so that you feel more comfortable seeing yourself. But if you find you're uncomfortable seeing yourself, start printing pictures the opposite direction so that you get comfortable with your face no matter which direction you're looking at yourself. Public posts. When you're posting in channels where other people can see it, means other people can see it. So when you're talking to someone, a specific person, what you're posting could be considered judgmental. Now, I'm not saying you're judging them. I just mean it's now out there and in the public. So some people are uncomfortable. And some people feel like they're just on their own. They're struggling. No one else has this problem. I'm a dev. I shouldn't have this problem. I should know how to fix everything in my computer, right? We know that's not right. Our whole families think that, but we don't think that anymore. So reduced or abbreviated messages. These are okay, but I'm going to bring in another story. So my daughter went to college, and she's got the phone, and she's going to text me every day. And she did. And for the first 2 days, she sent me texts. She sent me text number 1, and she ended it with hand. She sent me text number 2 the next day, ended it with hand. And the next day, ended it with hand. And as mama, I was done with her giving me the hand after every text message. I did not know it meant have a nice day. So you can imagine what I looked like when I picked up the phone after text message number 3, and I said, look, girl, if you're going to give me the hand for every text message, this is going to be a problem. No, Mom, I was saying have a nice day. So you need to know that the person on the other side actually understands the language that you are using. When you leave things open to misinterpretation, it causes anxiety, it causes assumptions, it takes time for someone to decipher, and the worst part, if they think it's short, they might think you're being short with them. So you have to be careful when you abbreviate things that you're abbreviating for the right reasons. Communication, encoding, difficulty while encoding. Now, this may not pertain to everyone in the room, but I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of people in here have experienced these. Dysgraphia. Dysgraphia is the difficulty expressing thoughts and words in a written word, putting something onto paper. For those of you who may feel this, you may remember back in the day, if you could give an oral report, you rocked it. You got more than 100% on that one. Your teacher thought you were the greatest thing ever. But if you had to actually put it on paper, it was extremely difficult. Not because you didn't get the grammar, but it was hard to put it on paper. You may have experienced a form of dysgraphia. When you're working with someone, if you want to recognize if they may have this difficulty, you see simpler sentences, constant run-ons without breaks. They mix capitalization and lowercase. This happens in somebody who struggles with a little bit of, or even a lot of dysgraphia. So if you recognize that in someone, give them time. Give them time to communicate with you so they don't have to rush, so that they can remove these issues. And expressive language issues. Now, this isn't about the written word. This is actually struggling to take the information in your head and put it into words that you would speak. Some people need a little bit of extra time in order to provide that spoken response. Someone who's late to start speaking or that person who speaks very little. It seems like everyone speaks up except for them, but you know they're not introverted because you've had coffee with those guys at Starbucks and they get a little rowdy. They have a limited vocabulary. Look for the use of constant generic words. They repeat phrases. That repetition is a stall while they're trying to formulate their thoughts. And their messages lack detail because they weren't able to take the context in their head and speak it to you. These are things to look for. If you struggle with any of these, there are some amazing ways that you can work yourself out of these. Look them up. All right, tips to improve your speech. Listen to yourself. That's one of my favorite ones. When I started listening to myself, I recognized a lot of things I've done that I've been able to change. Not perfectly. You're going to still hear the ums and so's today a little bit, but I was able to remove some of that from my speech. I also noticed I had this speech pattern of never letting someone else speak. It was the craziest thing. I'm a BA. I need to listen more than I speak. And yet, I was going sentence after sentence after sentence. So I had to recognize I needed to leave space. So listen to yourself. Focus on your final sound. Do you really think about what your closing is, or do you just go at it and then stop? Think about how jarring that can be to someone to not recognize you're done yet. Speak with confidence, whether you're texting, whether you're on video camera. You are the right person to be having this conversation. You have the right skills, the right knowledge. Own that. Stop feeling uncomfortable. Speak it out, get it out. Take the time. Tell someone, give me a moment, let me think that through. You deserve that extra time to think it through because your thoughts are important and valid. Monitor your speed and address your weaknesses. But most importantly, think before you speak. When you want to improve tips in your actual messages, it's not just what you're going to say. There are hand exercises and actually some amazing tools out there that can help you with finger dexterity that are going to make you a better typer. There are some fun typing games out there to help you. I actually play the Typer Jaws game at least once a month to try to keep up with my speed. You shouldn't have to type. We have these amazing modern devices. You turn on dictation, you press a button, you say what you want to say, you make sure it understood your words, you hit enter and send it off. Believe it or not, you speak faster than you type. Think about how much time that'll save. Is that annoying? Hopefully that helps. Don't write it at all, right? Audio record it using emoticons. Now of course professionally, we all know what is available and not available in our offices. I'm not saying you need to get in trouble with those memes, but sometimes it's easier not to write it, but to actually show it. Any questions? Well, I'm sorry, I can't do that. I forgot. Are there any questions that jumped up on Slack about encoding so far? I will put breaks after each of my major segments, so if you guys want to ask your questions early on, I will ask them as we go. Communication breakdown while we are decoding. Now that you guys know the pattern, I'm not going to read each and every one of these, but it's definitely, you need to understand how you decode, what you're doing when you're listening or reading to understand context. So let's think through a few of these. Misinterpreted context. So, did you guys know your brains had autocorrect? Of course you do. We've seen it on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. Everybody can read these. It's not the 1% brain people who can read these. Your brain has an autocorrect to them. But here's the thing, like a device, your brain's autocorrect isn't perfect. Some people miss up sample and simple, right? Or test and set. Your brain can easily misinterpret words that are similar to each other. So as you're reading, make sure your brain isn't auto-correcting to see something. If you're like me, the word not is one of the most important words in any sentence. And if I'm sending a developer information and that person needs to know it's not an equal, it's a not equal, they know it. I'm putting bolds and underlines and stars and everything else I can do because it's one of the most common mistakes is your brain doesn't see the word not. And if you did the N apostrophe T, you're really doing somebody a disservice because they don't even get 3 letters now. You took one away. perceived bias. You guys hear about the angel and the devil on your shoulders? Guess what? You've turned your teammates into angels and devils and you didn't even know it. Bet you right now you're thinking which one's the devil too. Each idea, each thought, each piece should be considered on its own merit, not based on the person providing that information. I know that's not fair. You have to use some judgment. But let's be honest, in a professional setting, most, I won't say all, but most people aren't out to backstab you. They really are there to work and get a paycheck as well. And if they're backstabbing everyone, they're not going to get that paycheck for long. So think about when you are putting bias to what somebody is sending to you. If you had the question, are you there? And it came from your peer, how would you read that versus your boss? There was no inflection. It just said, are you there? But for some reason on the boss, we put that command on the end as we're reading it. Are you there? Yeah, of course I'm here. Where else would I be? I'm not allowed to go to the bathroom between 9 and 5 every day. Avoid communication breakdown while you're decoding. This is one of my, I want to say favorite to do. And I just don't hate me for this until we go through it. You've heard of selective hearing. Well, guess what we deal with every day? Selective attention. Selective attention isn't always bad. How many people here have had to work with others near them? The kid in the background, the dog barking, right? Somebody knocking on the door if you're working remotely. The guy in the cube across the way who does all of his conference calls from his cube and loud. Yeah, we need selective attention. It helps us focus on what we're doing. How many people here have more than one monitor to look at? How well are you doing with selective attention in a meeting if you're looking at the other monitor with your code up? Know which meetings require selective attention, which ones require cursory attention, which ones require passive attention. Do the right things in the right meetings. Have the right communications. And selective distortion. Selective distortion is where you interpret the information the way you wanted to interpret it, not the way they actually meant it. Anybody been in a relationship where they've had that problem? Yes. Selective distortion is one you're only going to work with if you remind yourself that just because you're frustrated doesn't mean the other person is. Don't apply your feelings to their words. Try to understand their feelings or just ask. I know it seems annoying to ask someone, were you trying to make me angry? But if it made you angry, don't you deserve to know if they intended it? Be careful, they just might say yes. Misinterpreting tone and attitude. I didn't make this sentence up. I learned this from a psychiatrist. Has anybody else seen this one? We'll go through it real quick today. Yep, I see a couple people smiling. You guys ready for how this is going to go? I didn't say you were stupid. 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 Maybe just a little fill in the blank. One change in inflection in this sentence and the entire meaning of the sentence changes. This is why words alone are only 7% to be trusted. You need the other 93%. This is real. I'm not making this up. You saw it for yourself. Passive and, I know what it is. Can I kill this? Is that better? Ah! So reasons why people passively read or listen. Your attention is divided. We talked about multiple screens. How many people here work while they're stressed? If you didn't raise your hand, you're lying. Just saying. You're overstimulated. How can you not be overstimulated with the number of screens and people and devices that are coming at you? You're not stimulated enough. You're bored out of your mind. The BA just shut up and let me code it already? You're indifferent. You don't see the value. How many meetings are you in where you just don't know why you're there? It happens. If you're being passive and something important was said, you could get in trouble. My thing is, if I don't think it's important, I usually ask people if I could not attend, because I really hate when I multitask and then I miss something important just because I was passively listening. And then you could be confused or lost. Has anyone here heard of the Ringleman Effect? The Ringleman Effect is this study that's been done a long time ago, by the way. I didn't do this, somebody else did. Ringleman clearly did this. But if you take one person's strength, right, you know how much they can push. Let's say they can pull 300 pounds, and another person could pull 300 pounds, and if they're pulling together, they can pull probably 600 pounds. But the more people you add, the more it degrades the amount they're doing. Now that person who was originally pulling 300 pounds, when there's 6 to 8 people, they're not pulling 300 pounds anymore. There's this mental concept that it's not as important for me to attend. It's not as important for me to do. If you're the only one or there's just a couple, you put all your effort into it. But when there are more people, you put less. How many people send an email to 8 people, ask a question, and no one responds? That's what we call the Ringleman Effect. And some of the people I work with, I will respond to that email with Ringleman Effect, please help. And the people who work with me know what I mean. Somebody say something, please. But everybody feels like somebody else is going to handle it. So when you're having these meetings, call people out, ask questions. How many people are in a meeting? Somebody asks a question, everybody's on mute, no one answers. Do you feel like you should unmute? Well, I would, but it's hard to find that button, and I'm in the middle of this. Yeah, that's what happens. I'm the mean guy. I'm the one who just keeps the silence until some poor person answers. And then usually I thank them and tell everybody else they're jerks. No, I'm kidding, I don't do that. But silence either can be interpreted by you as saying, this means everyone agrees. I will move on from here assuming everyone agrees. Then everyone knows, right? If it was an open question, I'm going to assume no one knows the answer. Let's pull up Google and find out. Or Bing if you're Microsoft. I'm sorry, I don't mean to judge. Overanalyzing everything. Anyone knows anyone, BA, who overanalyzes things? Of course we do, and we overanalyze every message. Try not to read into things that you shouldn't. Just because somebody abbreviated something didn't mean they were mad or didn't want to give you the time. They could have just been in a rush. Might have nothing to do with you. And tips to help you stop overanalyzing. Take everything at face value. Completely do not assume everyone texts the way you do. We're all different people. Don't overthink the emoticon. They put a smiley face yesterday and they didn't today. They must hate me. No, don't overthink it. And lack of punctuation, no matter what your grammar teacher has told you, does not mean disrespect. It really does not in today's day and age. And not in clearly 1862 or whatever that was. So any questions on decoding or encoding that came up? Is there one? Okay. And communication breakdown in the channel. Inflection, tone, speed, pace, volume, we talked about those a little bit. Speed of transmission, quality of reception, software limitations, and hardware limitations. Now this one I'm going to go through probably a little bit slower than the last one. Okay, I'll try. Let's talk about tone. Tone can change everything. When you are adding to your pieces and you are not able to include tone, you need to add words. You need to add visuals to support your tone. Otherwise, they've got a 93% opportunity to mess up what you just said. In order to avoid that, you need to add the additional context. And sometimes it's really easy. Adding something at the end. How's your day? Sounds like pretty easy thing to ask. Ask your important questions. Say, need to know exactly what you want meaning when you put blah, blah, blah on page 3 of the requirements document. How's your day? You ask 2 questions. Is it hard to ask 2 questions? Is it a problem to ask 2 questions? Was it the worst thing in the world that you did to ask 2 questions in the morning? But I tell you what, if the first thing in the morning you're questioning someone, you're literally questioning someone first thing in the morning, they may not take it as well as you would like if you don't add something. Smiley face saying, just wondering, gotta know. Or if your tone is, dang it, you're blocking me, say it. Well, not dang it, because it's not nice. But you're blocking me, I need this answer. Add your tone. You would use it if you were in front of them, right? What would you do if you were in front of them? Add that extra in. But if you're talking about your voice, there are ways that you can improve your tone by understanding. And you'll have access to this, but it actually tells you how to make something sound questioning, how to make something sound nurturing, how to sound friendly. We're in IT. Some of us, and I'm one of them, aren't as sensitive as others. So I had to practice the friendly and the nurturing a little bit. I'll be honest. I'm like, really? Okay, a softer, higher pitched tone to match their voice? How do I not sound sarcastic doing that? I practiced it. It works, believe it or not. But yeah, it started to sound sarcastic at first because people knew me. So speed or pace. Slow speech, 110 words per minute. Conversational, 120 to 150. Radio hosts or podcast speakers, 150 to 160. Fast is considered 160, definitely. And auctioneers, 250 to 400 words per minute. Thankfully, we don't work with them every day. How fast do you type? Yeah, it's not on here, is it? Think about that. How much easier would it be just to hit a button, record it, and send the recording, or, again, hit the dictation button, say it, and then hit enter and send the text? So when to change your speed, slow down when it's important or sad or confusing or complex. Speed up when you're excited. You already know them. It's lighthearted. You can keep it going. But most of all, understand the rate, your reading rate. Your reading rate. If you skim on a regular basis, you're making the mistakes. You're feeding that 93% to be wrong. What don't you know? You don't know how fast they typed it. You do not know their rate of sending it to you. It flashed. They finished it. They hit the button. You got it. You have no idea that they were writing that fast or they were angry when they were writing it because you don't know the speed at all. You can't control the breaks either, right? They send message, 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 message. They may not have typed them in a second after second, but for some reason the internet glitched in that moment. You got all 5 questions all at once. They didn't do that. You were making an assumption, so don't assume you understand that. You can control your skim reading, and you can control whether you focus read or don't focus read. Keep that in mind. Volume and articulation. The volume of your voice does not increase the validity of your argument. And my ex did not appreciate me quoting this to him a couple times. But even if it did, guess what you cannot control? The volume of their device. What you can control is that they know your volume. When you are in a long conversation with one or someone, they know your tone. When you're in a long engagement with someone, they know your tone. You've gone beyond that, norming, storming, forming. You're in the performing long time ago. You've been way there. They know you well. Somebody who doesn't know you well may not know your normal voice. Never hurts to let them know. So if you're in audio and video conferences, have a normal pace you use, have a normal tone that you use, and then change it when you need to. Don't feel like you can't just because you're on video. I'm on camera, I must speak like this at all times just in case because it's being recorded and other people can watch it. Feel like you can. Whisper. People think they can't. If you could do it in person, why can't you do it in a video camera? I really have. I wouldn't suggest shouting per se, but raising a little is nice as well. But again, the volume of your voice doesn't change the validity of your argument. Just remember that. Even though you try, we all try, right? It happens. If I speak loud enough, they'll just leave me alone and agree. But you can control the volume in your messages. Bolding it, underlining, capitalizing it. Now, not all the time and not in every way, just for the emphasis when it's necessary and professional. I can't wait to hear a story about somebody who's used the strike-through. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. and I haven't used it myself. But if you do, send me an email. I'd love to hear about it. But punctuation, to add space and breaks, is very, very important. Again, people do not know how you're thinking this through. So using the em dashes and the dashes, ellipses, colons. I know we weren't really taught the importance of that when we were going through school, but trust me, if you recognize how to use these to break up your messages, it's going to make it easier for someone to understand the context. The speed of transmission is one of the biggest problems that we face. Has anybody dealt with any of these? Yeah, we have. Cannot see the slide. Guys, when somebody says, I've pointed to, or see this, or it's there, any indicator that they thought they were sharing their screen, don't be the guy who doesn't say anything. It's the same as not telling the bride she's got something in her teeth. It's just not nice. Let people, do you think you're sharing right now? Can anyone else see the screen that I can't see? It's okay to call that out. If not, everyone else is going, well, I guess we're not supposed to see it if nobody said anything, but I'm not going to say anything. No, speak up, please. If somebody's late to the party and you notice they came late to the party, why not let people know they're there? If you show up late, find the right spot and say, I made it. You don't have to apologize. You probably shouldn't apologize in the first place. I'm sure if you were late, there was a reason. You guys are never late without a reason, right? I mean, going to the bathroom's a good reason, by the way, in my opinion. It was all right. It was always okay in person, right? It was always okay to go to the restroom before a meeting in person. Suddenly, remotely, it's not. I'm not quite sure why that changed, but it has. And just stop getting frustrated. Honestly, everybody's coming, not everybody. Almost everyone you work with, and hopefully everyone you work with, is coming with the right meanings, the right intentions. They just want to make life better for themselves and you. People don't message back right away. How many times you put something out there and you don't get it back? Come on, any day now. Did you tell them you were going to immediately wait for a response? Did you tell them when you needed it by? People appear to be idle or offline. Well, they're definitely offline because Teams is perfect, right? Slack is always 100% perfect. Exactly. People always appear to be on a call or busy. I hate that my system decides it's going to list every meeting as me being in the meeting. I'm not in every meeting that's on my calendar. Talk about micromanaging. People appear to take forever to respond, ... Who watches the ... I can't stop myself. That's like the cliffhanger ending to a book. Come on, you're going to say something anytime now. I have to tell myself, eventually my system will let me know when they're done with that. And let it go. There you go. I like that one. And then it goes away, and no message ever comes. And then what were they going to say? I have to know now. I must call them. Don't get frustrated. Let it go. Don't get sucked into that. Video and audio conferences. Don't get frustrated when no one answers your questions. Just ask again. And again. And again, because you deserve an answer. People are late or they take a long time to join. Honestly, sometimes I just check what's going on. I'll text somebody, hey, I know, I'm that guy. I am. I'll text somebody and say, hey, we've started. Should we wait for you? We can wait 5 minutes. I'll give them an easy out. We can wait 5 minutes. Now, I'm not saying text everybody who's 2 minutes late to your meeting. That's not what I'm saying. Don't misinterpret my words. But if there is someone you need to have that quorum who absolutely has to be in the meeting, offer the reschedule. Offer to start a little later. If it's going to take 60 minutes, you should have booked it for an hour and a half. Just going to tell you that right now. Nothing's perfect. People always seem to be interrupting. You know, before I knew what MBPSs were, people thought I was a jerk, and they were half right. But the other half, I just had a slow internet and didn't know it. 15 MBPSs. I lost the job because I kept interrupting the person. I didn't know I was interrupting them. It was my system, and it was just latent because I had a terrible connection. And people seem to take forever to respond. There are various reasons why they do. First of which is they forgot it. They saw the message, they had 8 other important things going on, they just forgot it. That's annoying, but it's easily remedied. Hey, did you see my message? They'll notice that one. That one gets paid attention to. If they take forever to respond, are they thinking it through? Did you let them know you needed it right away? Do you not need it until tomorrow? Give them a break, let it go. Eventually they'll respond. If they don't, you know what to do. Did you get my message? But some people take forever to respond because it is a difficulty in their system or a difficulty for them to encode it. There are various reasons. So don't assume the worst thing. It's better to assume the right thing, ask the questions, find out it was the worst thing, and then hold them accountable. I know I'm evil that way. The quality of reception, yeah, you don't really get to see this on a screen, but you do get that wonderful Max Headroom kind of sound and feel to it going on. And yes, I've just dated myself. Now you know I'm old. Video conferencing, here are some tips and tricks. You guys know these already. I'm not going to go through them in a lot of detail. But there are a lot of things that you can do, and you can look up online or ask your provider, what can I do to speed up my system? Sometimes it's enough to say I've got 18 different devices at home. Do they all need to be on between 8 and 5 p.m.? And software limitations. Not everyone has access to the same software that you do. There is definitely a benefit to having the remote information that we have. But there are some people who have easy access to things that others don't. Remote desktop features where you can actually say, hey, let me take over your screen really quickly so that I can point that out to you. Someone may be using Slack where you can actually highlight where something is, where you're using Teams and you can't actually highlight where something is. So there are software limitations that take place. Some people can do the video recording. They have plenty of space and they have plenty of permissions. Some people cannot. Depending on your governance, depending on security, depending on your device, how much your company's willing to dish out, you may have software limitations that you're struggling with. If you are having software miscommunications with other people where somebody's like, can't you just use the whiteboard? And you're like, what whiteboard? It's not on my wall. Is it on yours at your house? And you don't have the same system. I have a group of developers that it took 4 weeks before one of them told me they didn't have access to Draw.io. Are you kidding me? I sent you 5 diagrams. What'd you do? Okay, it wasn't necessarily their fault, but okay, it was their fault. But anyway, when I finally figured it out, I was like, you guys didn't know it was just anyway. So understanding that people have access to the things that you're sending them can stop you from communicating completely. And I did have one of them tell me, well, I assumed if I couldn't open it, I wasn't supposed to. I know, I felt bad. Hardware limitations. Laptop, desktop. Who's got amazing headphones? Yeah, that's the industry we're in. Not everybody does. Not fair to assume somebody has the greatest things ever. By the way, if you have an amazing device like a KVM switch, because you got 3 computers going at one time, and boy, it's so much easier for you because you hit that button and now you're on the other machine, tell other people about it. Come on, make life easy. Does anybody here know what a KVM switch is? Yeah, okay, that's who I'm talking to. That's, yeah, the same group. This is the awesome group, I forget. For those of you, 1 or 2 of you who do not know, I learned last month when I was gifted one by my husband because he's awesome. A KVM switch allows you to take multiple machines, connect them, and then when you say, this is the machine I want to see on my screens and my keyboard and my mouse to use, you flip a button and you're using the other machine with the same monitors, keyboard, and mouse. It's an awesome thing if you have to use multiple machines. So I'll be wrapping up here in just a second. Beware of the 4 horsemen: criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. Stonewalling's the worst, believe it or not. And use the 4 most effective means: complete, concise, clear message, and correct message. And if you are remote, do it without bias, do it without assuming bad intentions, and use your own personal agency. Put a little extra effort in there, guys. All right, I am Deena Chadwick, the commonsensical BA. I have stuff that's available to you on Udemy, Skillshare, Amazon. Kindle Unlimited, a lot of it is free. You get a free commonsensical technical documentation. If you would like it, email me, take a picture of this, deena.chadwick@commonsensicalba.com. I'm going to give you just a second in case people do want to take pictures. And Core BTS is hiring. I choose to work for a consulting company called Core BTS, even though I could spin out on my own, because they have an amazing group that understands what we do for a living, and they let us do it well as consultants. So if you want to know what opportunities are available, it's Core BTS Careers, Open Options, and tell them Deena sent you. Questions? Can you move that screen back one so we can get pictures? Sorry. I always feel like my plug, I shouldn't put that long a plug. I feel bad when I do. So, see if I can repeat this. Somebody's using the strike through to rephrase something. That's awesome. So if you've said something but you want to rephrase it, strike it through and then write it. Somebody will definitely pay attention that that was rephrased. I love that. I'm actually going to try to use that one this week. And that was Derek, you said? Thank you, Derek. First one in 6 months to say that. I'm excited. Yes, that's what I was told. That's how I was told to use it. You're using it that way. That's awesome. That's exactly how I was told to use it. I'm going to do it. I've been nervous. I'm going to do it now. You guys gave me the confidence I needed.
The downside is it's harder to read for accessibility purposes. So you need to keep it short if it's longer, but parentheses.
Keep it short. If you are using it because you want to speak to something that isn't as relevant to the topic or just like not as important, but keep it short for accessibility purposes and for those who couldn't hear that on the video. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much for choosing this one.